Hey guys, this is the Rush City Speed from Serial 1. It's a company that was launched from Harley Davidson, kind of spun off. They've been around since 2020, kind of released these bikes in 2021, and I've been looking at several of them today. So there's the Rush City Step Through over there. This one's the Speed, so it's class 3, and it's got a higher capacity 706 watt-hour battery pack versus 529. Otherwise, it shares a lot of similarities with the standard Rush City. In 2021, they offered a high-step Class 1 Rush City, but I guess they didn't continue it because most of the people must have been getting the Speed version, which I totally understand. This would be an excellent commuting platform because it has the little racks built in, the fenders, integrated lights, and this thing has the Enviolo automatically shifting electronic continuously variable transmission hub. It's got the Gates belt drive system, so it's very, very clean. There's no derailleur hanging down. Some of the trade-offs, of course, is price. You end up paying a little bit more, and this comes in 4 frame sizes and 2 colors. Really nicely done here with this metallic blue, and you can see how that top tube's kind of angled, so they're trying to lower that standover height there, and we've got this flat, fairly aggressive stem, but a low-rise bar, and when I got on it, the reach wasn't too bad. You know, it actually felt a bit more comfortable, kind of upright, which was nice. I mean, you got these locking ergonomic grips and everything, the larger tires, but you'll notice there isn't a suspension fork on this bike, so it's a little bit stiffer. It's going to be lighter. This weighs about 59 pounds, as you see here, with all the accessories and stuff. There's this really cool storage compartment above the battery pack. I'm used to seeing batteries that are fitted into that down tube. This one's a little bit more towards the bottom bracket on the bike, so the weight is really low and centered on it, and it gives it this nice stable feeling, and that's enhanced further by the Schwalbe Supermoto X tires, 27.5 by 2.8 there, plus size. So it increases your contact patch, lowers your attack angle, and it just gives you that softer, spongier feeling, vibration dampening. Boost hub spacing front and rear, 110 millimeters up front, 148 in the rear, 15 millimeter through axle. So you're getting a really sturdy spoke bracing angle in both cases, and just a stronger feel, which is great for a speed pedelec like this. And the brakes, so we have TRP 3-finger levers, adjustable reach, and these large 203 millimeter rotors front and rear, so you get an increased mechanical advantage and cooling properties from this. Quad piston calipers, it's greater surface area and braking control. I love that. I also like the kickstand here. It's adjustable length, it's clear of the crank arms. There's a little bit of friction in this spindle, but not a lot. So as I was riding, it was like, oh, if you slip off, that could swing around and hit your shin. That was one of the little gripes I had. Also, no bottle cage bosses on this frame. They might have been able to fit them, but I understand they're trying to keep that top tube a little bit lower, and you have the included rack, so you can get like a bottle holster with a trunk bag or something like that. And for comfort, you know, you always hear me say this, 27.2 millimeter seat post diameter, you can get a suspension post. Now, it's going to raise your minimum saddle height, but it's worth considering. There are these like shock stock stems and other things like that, but this is fairly proprietary, so I feel like I'd be leaving the front of the bike alone, and I'd probably be experimenting with the seat post if I wanted to further enhance comfort. I really like the saddle. It's fairly active, has a little handle thing underneath, makes the bike a bit easier to pick up. The fenders on this, they're plastic and they're kind of angular, so they aren't making a lot of noise and they aren't flexing too much. They almost seem like metal fenders initially, and they help to support that rear rack. The weight capacity on this is a little bit lower, maximum 10 kilograms. So, you know, I'm used to seeing 25. It also says, you know, don't use with a child carrier. So this is much more for like commuting and just for supplies. Get a trunk bag, panniers, and then there's a bungee loop if you wanted to attach something really lightweight. Same thing on the front, 10 kilograms. It's really minimalist, and it could be good for a little basket or a bag, something like that. It's nice the way that they set these up. The bolts are inside the fork and kind of inside and just more hidden. You can see here these rear support arms. They're just above these really cool lights that I'll go into a little bit later. 170 millimeter crank arms. These are the Wellgo BMX pedals that I like. Good surface area, very stiff, and I like the way they designed the frame. You can see that they didn't have to make a break in the frame in order to get that belt on, because it can kind of just fit up from below. There's a sliding dropout just to help improve belt tensioning. In this case, we're using the Gates carbon belt drive CDX. It has the center track, so the belt won't go off track. really tight clearance up here too, so it's almost like a guide. Not that you need it with CDX, but we do have that plastic guide on the outside to protect your pants and other clothing. The spokes are both 14 gauge, and we have 28 up front and 32 in the rear. 35mm rims, double wall, pretty nice. I want to compliment the reflective sidewall stripes and the puncture resistance built into these Schwalbe tires. It just feels like all the little details were considered, and I love how all the cables route through the handlebars as well as the stem and then the rest of the frame. You'll see them come out just back here for that rear brake caliper, and you'll also notice that there's no spoke magnet here, so it's kind of tacked on to the outside of the rotor, and the sensor is here on the left side, so you're going to get clear, clean reads. You're not going to get the spoke bumped out of position or coated with mud. All of the electronics on this bike are rated IP65. Apparently they were tested up to IP67, which is nice to hear. In order to charge the bike, we would come down here to the left side of the bottom bracket. There's this rubber cover. You pull it back, plug it in. It's a little bit low, and it's in the path of that left crank arm. So for me, bending way down here it's a little bit of a chore. It'd be nice if it was up higher. That's also where the locking cylinder is, and it's great. You can completely remove the battery, which is going to reduce the weight of the bike if you're hauling it, and it's going to make it probably easier to charge the battery if you're like in an office setting and you're bringing it up to charge during the day. You can also keep it out of the extreme heat, extreme cold, which is going to make the battery age better, right? You're going to get more full charge cycles than if you're exposing it to the heat. So this is the charger, weighs 1.9 pounds. It's 42 volt, 4 amp. So most e-bike chargers I see are 2 amp. And that's great. This is going to fill the bike a lot faster, and got a proprietary interface there. Oh, there we go. You can see that it's, it could pass, but it's a little bit crowded here at the bottom bracket area. If this wasn't all jumbled up, it would be fine. The right angle was definitely a good choice. The battery cells are 21700, which is the highest energy density right now. It's the same as like the Teslas used. So you're getting a compact size and lower weight for that higher capacity. I learned that the key set for this bike is from Abus, and it's the key to like version. So you could actually match this to a folding lock or a chain lock, but you'd have to do that through a third-party retailer, and I've heard that can take a month or two to get back. Coming back up here to the cockpit, we got a flick bell and we've got the display, but otherwise it's just so clean because of the automatic shifting hub. There is an app, and you can set it up to almost work like gears, where like gear 1, 2, 3, 4, that kind of thing, or you can set a cadence and then it automatically adjusts so that you're always at that comfortable cadence. And the default setting is 75 RPM, but you could go as low as 30 RPM and as high as 100. I'd probably dial it up a bit because I like to spin faster. It's a bit easier on my knees. There are also 3 ride modes: Comfort, Tour, and Sport. Sport just shifts the gears faster, so it feels a little sportier. You could also manually select a gear. The app's pretty cool. There's a little slider bar. It's very intuitive, but you do have to download that separately and connect to the bike to adjust it. You'll notice there's no shifter mechanism or twist shifter on this bike because it's just the automatique. To start this bike up, we'll just hold the power button on top of the Broza display. This is transflective, so it's going to look good even in bright, harsh light like we have today. Got a bunch of readouts, and you can swivel it a little bit so it's easier to read. Right now we're in boost, but I'm going to take it all the way down to off, in which case you'd just be riding with that 900 lumen headlight and those rear lights, which by the way have an accelerometer in them, so when you brake they go bright, which is just going to make you even more visible, and they didn't have to use extra cables in order to achieve that. I thought that was a really cool feature, and it's kind of proprietary to Serial 1. So we've got current speed, we've got battery level on the left, we've got the headlight, and normally you'd be able to turn the headlight on or off like with the other Rush City model or the Mosh City, but in this case, because it's a speed pedelec, they have it set up with lights always on just to be safe. So if we press the little circle button, we can change the readouts from like trip time, trip distance, average speed, max speed, odometer, and then clock, kind of like what time is it. And then at the bottom there's walk mode, so if we hold that for a couple seconds and then hold the minus key, the bike will walk itself forward. Pretty handy if you've got a 60-pound bike and you need to cross an area where biking just isn't possible. And then the 4 levels of assist, so we press plus and we go to Eco, Tour, Sport, and Boost. And that's kind of it. There is a settings menu if we hold the circle button for a couple seconds there, and we can go in and change the units, look at our trip information, our battery stats, and then eventually go back out here and just ride the bike. So I wanted to show you the app, and we're back here with Regan. He's pulled it up on his phone. This works for iOS or Android. And you can see here that it's pinpointing a location on the map. You can type in another location. It gives you turn-by-turn directions. It looks like it connects via Bluetooth, and you've got a lot more detail here. We've got available range, so 6.8 miles based on the current battery charge level of 60%. I love that it's percentage instead of just like a bar or some infographic. And there are a bunch of other readouts here, so you can see recent rides, you can see the bike itself, and then kind of brings you back to some of the details about the bike and some of the rides you've done. You've got privacy mode, dashboard auto display, the serial number, so many things. And then this data plan. So the data plan relates to tracking the bike and the security and some of those other features. So if we go back home and we say lock the bike, well, it can lock this bike, and as it starts to move, it would alert you, and then you can say, okay, flash the lights and disable it so that the bike can't actually be ridden anymore with electric assist. I suppose it could be dragged off, but you would know where it's going too. And since the SIM card is built into the bike, that's a pretty cool security feature. In this last menu here, we can adjust units and get some support for our bike. Again, the warranty on this thing, it's 2-year comprehensive, 5 years on the frame. Okay, I'm in boost. I'm just gonna pedal along. What I noticed is that it's just very quiet and smooth because of the Gates belt drive, and there's no, chain slapping around. Here we go. Beautiful, beautiful. Very, very smooth, and the brakes are just, almost overkill. But anytime that I kind of eased off pedaling, I could hear that servo sort of shifting down automatically, and that just makes it easy to start pedaling again. It's always tracking, trying to give you a very comfortable cadence, and one that's also very efficient. I'm not gonna be able to keep up. Yeah, so that's the Class 3, the Rush City Speed. Tony's having a blast. Look at those brake lights. Love that. I can't believe that's based on accelerometer. There we go, now I'm catching up. I wanna see that headlight. Here, let me get in front. Very nice. They're so quiet. And stable. Kinda got that low center of gravity. Oh yeah. They've even got kind of this oversteer protection built into all of the bikes, so you're not going to crash into the down tube or just wrap the cables up inside.
Nice.
It's almost automotive level, attention to detail here, and I love that they included that USB-C charging port. Stuff like that can make a big difference, especially when you've got the high capacity battery and you're using that app a lot. That really stands out. I don't know anyone else who has the Google partnership for locking the bike and then planning your routes and stuff. Well guys, that is the Rush City Speed from Serial 1. Pretty cool to check these bikes out. I was packing them in today. It was just neat to get to ride with them and explore all the different features. I've got all the details back at ElectricBikeReview.com, including a comparison tool. So you can look at these bikes back to back, compare to some other Class 3 bikes. There's also a forum, so you could chat with other people and see which accessories work well with this bike and just how they're holding up. It is a fairly new company, but considering they have so many frame sizes and colors and a partnership with Google, it's pretty impressive. Hope this helps you out. I love you. We'll see you next time.